Okay, hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to JFD Brokers Traders Tea Time with me, Darius Lunachauskas. Today is the 24th of September 2018. So welcome everyone. Welcome to this Monday's afternoon session where we're going to have a look at a few instruments I believe are quite important. But before we do that, as always, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimers. So the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation, should not be considered as such, and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. As always, a few seconds for you to read the rest and we can continue. So let's jump into the charts. Now the first one I want to touch on is the Dow. Now the Dow is, as you can see here, we're sitting here at the moment at all-time highs, and of course on Thursday this is what happened. We've broken the previous highest point here that we had around a 26,615, and then on Friday it continued to trade a little bit higher. Certainly it wasn't a huge candle here on the daily chart, but nevertheless still the candle closed in the positive zone, and of course we're now testing the areas around the 26,750, so approximately there. So of course keep your eyes on today's trading and this week's trading, especially because if suddenly this reverses back down here and we get a close below the 26,615, now this is where it could become more interesting for the bears, at least for the short term, because they could potentially drive this index lower here, initially of course aiming for the 26,165, and then maybe a little bit lower towards this I would say medium term, or actually more of a short term, actually more short term upside support line taken from the 27th of June. So for now, of course, keep your eyes on this. Certainly if this continues to accelerate, we could continue pushing for higher levels. We could potentially start hitting new highs again, and of course, like I said, for now all eyes are on this, and as you know, the European markets are getting a hit today, a little bit of course, not much, but nevertheless let's see how the US market opens, and let's see if it actually moves back below this 26,615 level. If that's the case, well, brace yourself for a possible correction, I would initially say, correction towards lower levels here, as again I will repeat myself, initially aiming for the 26,150 level, something like that, approximately there, yep, then we could eventually test this short-term upside support line. Let's jump into one precious metal that I really wanted to touch on, and that's silver. It's in a way similar story like with gold here. It continues to range here between these two important levels here, on the downside being the 13.985 and on the upside the 14.315 level. So until it's stuck here, to be honest, it's probably best to keep observing this and just to keep observing this activity. Now if suddenly this gets a nice jump here, a push higher, if we start breaking the 14.315 or even actually the 14.380 level, this is where it could become more interesting for the bulls, because we would be close to this downside resistance line taken from the 25th of June. And eventually if that gets broken and we get a nice close above that level, then, well, I mean, this could open the path towards the next potential area of resistance, probably more of a psychological level here at 15. So 15.00 could be the next potential target to watch, but only if we get a nice break and a close above this downside resistance line taken from the 25th of June. So keep your eyes on that one. if, of course, if this trend line, this resistance line continues to hold, and we'll start seeing actually rejections around this level, around this area, then well, keep your eyes on the lower bound of this range that I was talking about just right now. So the 13.985 level, keep your eyes on that one, because a nice break below that level could lead towards further declines, and the level to watch underneath here could be the 13.645. Let me just kind of zoom back out here, just to show you that this level here, the 13.645, was approximately around the lows seen in December 2015. So quite an important level, quite an important kind of potential psychological level to watch, and like I said, but we'll only consider that level if we get a nice break in a close below the 13.985. Let's jump into one crypto quickly, and that's Bitcoin. And the Bitcoin right now, looking at this daily chart, it continues to trade here below this downside resistance line taken from the peak of the 25th of July. Certainly for now, we're just going to keep a close eye on it. And we do understand that the cryptos are getting a boost lately, especially from last week. We saw this nice spikes to the upside. So the Bitcoin, on the other hand, it's also a big mover, but still, let's say, comparing it to Ripple that blew up on last week, but still Ripple is not performing that good, comparing it to Ripple. So for now, as you can see, it found its resistance near the 6,800 level, from which it got rejected and moved lower. So now we're currently getting closer towards this next good area of support near the 65.55 zone, approximately there, of course. Now if we do get a break here below this level, now this could lead towards the towards the decline here towards the 6120 zone, so which also could prove to be quite an important area of support, as you can see here on the 19th of September, and then on the 8th of September it acted as it held the price from dropping lower, and we could see something similar happening again if, of course, if this level here, the 65.55, gets broken to the downside, and we'll see further declines towards the 6120. This is, like I said, this is where we could see the crypto stalling for a little bit, and yep, we could see the bulls and the bears getting a big fight here over who's gonna take control of this crypto further. Now certainly, of course, if the bears continue to dominate here, then the next good level to watch is the 58.60, now marked here by the low that we saw here in August. That was basically the lowest point of August, and yep, we could see a test of that level, but again, for that we would need to see a good break and a close below the 6120. On the upside, well, as you probably understand here, we do have this downside resistance line that I was just talking about. So for us basically to start considering higher levels, we would need to see a nice good break and a close here above that line in order to kind of start aiming for higher levels. Initially, of course, we'll aim for these highs here that we saw here in the beginning of September, and that's around the 74.15 zone, maybe 74.20, something like that. We can round it up a little bit. So keep your eyes on that one, because a nice break and a close above this level could send this crypto towards the 77.70 or even higher here, towards the levels last seen in July, in the end of July. And this level here, the end of July, was marked by the high of the 24th of July, and that was around the 85.12 level. So something like this could be possible, but then again, like I said, for now, just be very careful and keep your eyes on this little short-term downside resistance line. Because if we get a nice break and a close above this could be opening the path towards higher levels. Let's jump into one pair, and that's Aussie dollar. Now it's the Australian dollar against the US dollar, and we're also sitting at quite an interesting spot here. Now looking at this bigger picture, we can see that it continues to trade below this downside resistance line taken from the peak of the 26th of January. Certainly if we would get a nice, you can see that actually if we get a nice break here, then this could open the path towards higher levels. But on the 21st of September, last Friday, basically, we had a nice rejection here around this level, and from today we're seeing a bit of a gap here forming. Let me just zoom in here a little bit so we can see that there's a bit of a gap, so could get filled, of course. And if this downside resistance line continues to hold, well, I mean, we could see further declines here. But to be honest, for us to start jumping into well, or should I say, maybe start examining the much lower levels here, we would need to see a nice good break here and a close below the 0.7235 area, and this way we could aim for a potential move towards the 0.7140 zone, so approximately there. And of course, if that doesn't hold, well, it could lead towards these lows that we saw around the 11th of September. So some good levels to watch here on the downside. But as you can see here, I've got this area highlighted, the 0.7235. If we would get a nice break below this level, then, well, we could start examining these lower levels that I was just talking about. On the upside, well, again, for us, like I said, we would need to see a nice good break and a close above this downside resistance line that I was just also talking about, and this is where we could potentially start aiming for the 0.7360 or even 0.7380 mark, approximately there. Now, of course, if those levels don't hold, then, well, it could lead towards a move to the 0.7477 mark, approximately there. And to be honest, this is where the 200 EMA would approach that level, and this could also play out as a very nice strong area of resistance eventually. But again, for us to start seeing all these higher levels, we need to see a nice good close above this downside resistance line. And the last pair that I really wanted to touch on, and that's USDJPY. Looking at the daily chart here, as you can see, it continues to climb higher. But let's jump into a 4-hour chart in this one, and this is where the a clear picture could be seen. So as you can see here, we're still trading above this upside support line taken from the low of the 7th of September. So it's a very short-term support line, but as you can see, it continues to hold and kind of continues to show direction for this pair. Certainly for now, keep your eyes on these levels, especially on the highs that we saw here around the 112.90 zone, approximately there, because if this this upside support line continues to hold, and if we see, let's say, a move down, a test of this upside support line, and then we could see a rejection here, then, well, we could aim for these highs that we saw. Let me just actually remove this a little bit lower. There we go. We could see another attempt of the 112.90, and if, like I said, if this doesn't hold, we could see further acceleration in the rate here. But for now, of course, be very careful. Probably for those who like to be on the safe side, probably wait until we actually get a move towards the 112.90 and maybe get a nice close above that level, and this is where we could potentially aim for the 113.15 zone initially, or even actually going higher a little bit towards the 113.40. Also marked by one of the highs here that we had in the past. If I'll just go back here, and that's actually the high that we saw around January time, so and the beginning of January. So some good levels on the upside, but again, for those levels to see, we need to get a nice close above the 112.90. On the downside, we need to see a good break here below this upside support line, and this is when we could aim for lower levels, like initially, of course, the 112.15. Slightly below that, we do have the lows that we saw around the 20th of September, so basically the lows of last week, and that's around the 112.05, something like that. A break below this level could open the path towards these other key important areas. Actually, let's get rid of this level. It does no longer required, And below that, we do have this good potential area of support here around the 111.65 mark here by the low of the 17th of September, and also it acted as a nice good area of resistance here around the 11th of September. So basically quite an important level to watch, this 111.65. But for that to see, we would need to get a nice good close here below this upside support line, the short-term upside support line, and of course a drop below these two levels that I was just talking about as well. Okay guys, I hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for watching and listening, and I hope you join me tomorrow morning at my Trader's Espresso. That's 6 o'clock GMT time, 7 o'clock British Summer Time. But for now, thank you very much, and bye-bye.